idea of the book, Smart City in India, Urban Laboratory, Trajectory or Paradigm, published by Routledge, Taylor and Francis in 2019, incubated in my earlier research and books, The Divided City, Policy and Ideological Contestations in Contemporary Urban India, and Culture, Place, Branding and Activism, which is an ethnographic compilation in the second-tier city of Lucknow in India. Both were published in 2018 and are available online. The research for both these books started in 2015, and that was also the time that the Smart City mission was launched in India in June 2015. Along came a plethora of urban policies like Amrut, Hriday, Swachh Bharat movement or Clean India movement, the Digital India, Make in India, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So the urban landscape was a very vibrant space, and one can say that the urban turn in India had happened, both in policy as well as in practice. I was already writing articles for Business World Smart Cities magazine, and it so happened that one fine day, Akash, who is the editor of Routledge, called me to pen down a book for Routledge on Smart City mission in India. It would be an academic reflection, and Routledge being the most popular academic publishers globally, I could not decline the offer. I said yes. And we signed the publishing agreement in March 2018. And after 2 years of research at the secondary level, comprising study of policy documents, vision documents, smart city plans, newspaper stories and backstories and materials and other things that we could lay our hands on various cities, and also primary level research, which included 3 detailed case studies in the second-tier cities of Lucknow, Varanasi and Jaipur. The book was finally printed and hit the stands in November 2019. The book has gained tremendous response both nationally and internationally, and we have presented and discussed it in various European universities as well. So as I mentioned, the urban turn in India has happened, and India does not live in villages anymore. India will lead the world in urban growth with 416 million people by 2050. More Indians will live in urban areas by 2050. India will have 7 megacities, numerous urban centers, namely the second-tier cities like Kanpur, Pune, Jaipur, Coimbatore, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, all of which are the crucibles and laboratories of smart city plans and experiments. Urbanization and urbanism in India today are inspired by global symbols, models, and aspirations. Earlier, it used to be the world-class cities imagination, then came the global cities, and now it is the smart cities imagination. Second-tier cities are the emergent urban reality of India, with growing levels of consumerism, widespread use of digital technologies and satellite communications, and also with global linkages. And the global character of India's cities is not only limited to high-end malls, real estate markets, posh residential complexes and IT parks, but also to informal economies in slums of Dharavi and the weavers' colonies in dilapidated Chowk of Lucknow that cater to global supply chains. I would like to draw your attention to some of the recent statistics which claim that India accounts for 10% of global smartphone sales. According to another report by App Annie 2016 retrospective report, which states that how in recent years India has surpassed the US as the second largest smartphone market, while also sharply outpacing US in the mobile app market. And India is increasingly seen as a growing security and surveillance market with variety of applications adopting new innovations supplied by global companies. There is another article which mentions that Amazon executives who allude to the fact that 70% of their business will come from small towns, and the company has set up dozens of new distribution centers. Its arch rival, another e-commerce company, Flipkart, and many other e-commerce companies have worked out the intricacies of sending millions of shipments to customers in the emerging towns and cities of India. Smart city is the new paradigm which is driving urban policy and governance in India as in other parts of the world. Smart city as an idea is open to many interpretations. It is with this understanding that the government of India has allowed each of the 100 smart cities so far enlisted, and now the mission is in its second phase where it has declared 500 more smart cities to chart out their own destinies based on their own strengths and weaknesses. The Smart City mission actually stands on the fulcrum whereby it deploys technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, big data that envision to build smart cities that are governed on the foundation of data constantly collected and run on data-driven systems. In the Union Budget of 2018, the SCM aimed to build 100 smart cities with state-of-the-art amenities like smart command and control centers, solar rooftops, intelligent transport, with focus on automation, quantum communication, information technology, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robotics. So the idea is that technology is aimed to create economic opportunities, enable transparency in governance, institute better delivery systems, better and smarter urban spaces. The spate of urban policies that I've just mentioned, like Amrut, Hriday, Swachh Bharat Mission, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, have all rendered the urban landscape to rigorous transformation. The table you see lists out all these various policies that have been rolled out since 2015, and all of them work in convergence along with the Smart City mission.
This book is an attempt to have an academic reflection on smart city mission initiatives. It brings about three main questions. What are the urban planning paradigms that are currently operative and transforming urban India? What are the challenges with the smart city mission? And are there alternative pathways that could inform smart cities in India? Historically, the urban planning process has witnessed several paradigms, namely satellite cities, industrial cities, knowledge cities, while some of these global imperatives pushing the new paradigms, namely resilient cities, ecological urbanism, and now smart cities. They are operating, they are transforming Indian cities. The emerging concern of these planning paradigms may not necessarily have anything in common. There is a conspicuous absence of any structured discourse to find as a common parameter among all the planning paradigms. Instead, each paradigm dismisses the predecessor and not letting contribute to the maturing of planning in India. Urbanism in India today are inspired by global symbols, models, aspirations. The small and medium town in India often labeled interchangeably as a second and third tier cities with growing level of consumerism, widespread use of digital technologies, global linkages, and growing aspirations. All these forces are working simultaneously towards supposedly a quality of in any cities. The recent time has seen the shift in urban planning concern of our cities, especially second tier cities. The emerging paradigm of smart city mission is aspired to be moving towards formation of reactive, reflective, and knowledge-oriented society. The smart city mission is expected to move from functional hierarchical formation of our cities to digitally networked situation. It is assumed to have digital-based structural and functional operation of city, along with controlling, monitoring, and integrating critical infrastructure of the city. In addition to that, it is expected to reconfigure spatial formation of urban form, new means of resolving complex urban issues of Indian cities. The second-tier cities are often historic cities. Such transformation often does not address fundamental challenges of such historic cities and often ignore its organic and historic character of these cities, adding to such layers of infrastructure that are disconnected from the core, resulting in spatial division and social connectedness between people, place, and occupation. In such context, the SMART is conceptual model and not a technique of planning, where digital data is an asset, an important planning tool. It is also envisaged that such model of understanding the urban form being progressive, transparent, and information-oriented planning trajectory. The urbanization trends of metros, second-tier cities, third-tier cities are encountered with archetypical issues of conflicts that are traversing environment, livelihood, informal housing, depleting livability index, and reduction in affordability, all at simultaneously. Would it be slightly exaggeration to state that cities are being re-engineered with techno-utopian discursive construct to promote neoliberal rationalities? Or is it a narrow way of comprehending the complex urban phenomena? Or is it a new planning paradigm based on neoliberal epistemology? Or is it a fact that current mode of urban transformation model is subjecting Indian second-tier cities to be a laboratory for aspiring to be global? If these questions are unclear, if these questions have unclear answer, then politics, technical and epistemological understanding of smart city initiative needs to be examined and critiqued. How every day is seen is in a permanent state of emergency, and urgency becomes a planning paradigm for action. How visual technologies are central to understanding of ontological and practical configuration of cities. How data drives urban transformation, hierarchies, and rearrange the urban life. What you see on the slide is two aspects of urban realities in India: what smart urbanism intends to do and what urban form constitutes, which has historically evolved. They often are not in tandem, they often are not in harmony with each other. The book attempts to raise some fundamental questions on such new planning initiative and the role of urban planning and urban design in new transformative initiative amounting to spatial and cultural transformation of second-tier cities. Most of the second-tier cities have deep history, integrated urban form, constituting its own ecology, livelihood pattern, mobility network, amenities, institutions, and largely public realm. The re-engineering of second-tier city approach needs to be more inclusive, indigenous, and it is necessary to situate and respect the historic dimension of urban form. The book has come to a certain method to arrive at understanding of second-tier cities, which is enumerated in this chart, how various parts of cities could be interrelated, interconnected, and perhaps articulated. And maybe at the stage of planning process, you try to create strengthening of this relationship.
The book is an academic reflection, and it talks about it takes a step back to understand where the smart city mission is taking the cities of India, and we talk about important features like competitive federalism, privatization, administrative efficiency versus the questions of equality and equity. We highlight the important challenges of sustainability, the urban design and planning paradigms that have been overlaid with the smart city narrative, and an important issue which is informality, a quintessential feature of Indian urbanism that has been left out from this narrative. So to conclude, a plethora of random initiatives across cities in the form of smart city plans and projects. There are multitudes of private players, and cities have actually become laboratories for experiments. It's been 5 years since the launch of the SCM in India, and so we would not undertake a full-blown critical analysis or arrive at conclusive overstatement. Rather, we let the program play out further into the urban landscape in order to arrive at better conclusions. And of course, there is time, but we flag these important issues. We highlight the gaps, the challenges, so that there is time for course correction only if misplaced priorities are corrected and the holistic vision is restored. And the urban realities of India in terms of design and planning and governance are taken into consideration in greater detail. The SCM stands on projects that are too short-term and sporadic in nature in many cities. Projects have not moved beyond the pilot stage or are stuck halfway. Some of them are silent on crucial questions like rights and entitlements of informal settlements. Adequate standards to guide the project implementation, including housing, water, sanitation, are also missing. We also highlight certain contradictions in this research. For example, standardization is absent in sectors where it is most needed, like the metro rail projects. There is much priority on uniform standards and performance benchmarks and indexes that rank diverse cities with heterogeneous conditions along similar parameters. For instance, the Ease of Living Index that came out in 2018 ranks cities on 15 parameters. Now, this index uses issuance of construction permits to rank cities on economy and employment. Now, this could work as a desirable parameter for a new urban sector like Amravati, but is it workable for an old city like Old Delhi or Old Kolkata, for example? Each city must capitalize on its strength and build on its opportunities, while at the same time subjecting them to immense competition on centrally determined parameters. This also is an underlying contradiction in the smart city mission. There is also a sense of misplaced priorities, whereby urban transport and safety and surveillance get much more priority compared to solid waste management, for example. This is also, the misplaced priorities is also visible in the investment patterns. For example, beautification of riverfronts is given more priority rather than the cleaning of rivers. So my final comments are that Smart City Mission in India is a trajectory with misplaced priorities, sometimes lopsided. Even then, we are taking a step back and we want to see where this program actually goes. So we would give it more time for the program to really play out. It's too early to really come to a conclusive overstatement. But we do realize that the SCM ignores urbanization trends, some of the quintessential features of Indian urbanism like informality, crucial components of the urban form like the historicity of our second-tier cities that are the laboratories of smart city experiments, their interrelationships, cultural and social practices of people. So ultimately, cities in India are faced with a paradox. They must remain unique, yet respond to the all-pervasive neoliberal tech-driven diktats of urbanization. This paradox leads us to rethink the very meaning of smartness and our collective urban futures. We are really glad and would like you to know that excerpts from our book has been included in the Sustainable Development Goals online repository, which is an initiative from the Taylor and Francis Group, and it is the world's biggest specialist library to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals initiative and help university researchers, faculty, policymakers, students to address humanity's biggest challenges. Thank you very much.